Okay. Wow. It's a mock camera. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. My name is Martin Kölling. I'm the first vice president of the club, and I will be the moderator of today. And I think I will keep my introduction very short today, because the photo session already took a long time, and it seems there's a big interest in this topic of today. First, let me introduce the head table. Far on my right, to your left, is Haruko Watanabe, our kanji. Then Mrs. Takamatsu, our translator. And then, of course, our guest today, Ishiki Masaharu, the man who leaked the videos of the collision between the Chinese trawler and a in the waters of the Senkaku Islands, which we are all supposed not to know. But thanks to his action, actually, the whole world now knows about it. His action was not ruled illegal enough, I must say, to justify a prosecution. Yet it was highly controversial. For many, he displayed a high moral courage, rarely seen in public service, sacrificing his career for the right of the people to know. For others, though, accuse him of taking the policy into his own hand and having violated the duty of a civil servant to follow government decisions. But the leakage of the video has also another far more important dimension, in my view. Why was the video footage of the incident considered to be so secret that even politicians were not giving access to the full video, just to a highly edited version? Whose decision was that? And what are the consequences out of this incident? I think this is what Mr. Ishiki wants to talk about, but he can't so far, because as he is finding out, the media, after a first brouhaha, don't really force a public decision on this topic. Maybe his book, here in front of you, Nanka no Tameni Sengaku 38 Kokuhai. Sorry, Kokuhai. I think the translation seems to be quite a bit more difficult sometimes. Why I did this, the Confessions of Sengoku 38. Maybe this book will help to foster a public discussion about this issue. Please give our guest a very warm welcome, and then let's start with the speech as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Just one more thing, in case usually we don't introduce other guests of the press conference, but in case you have wondered, today we have also the governor of Tokyo, Shintaro Ishihara, attending. It's not his double, it's really him.
皆様こんにちは、石木正治です。お忙しい中、お集まりいただき、ありがとうございます。本日ここにお招きいただいたことを光栄に思うとともに感謝しております。先ほど述べられたように、石原知事まで来られて、少し緊張してしまいます。こういう席に立つのは、 結婚式以来だと思うんですが。
Hello, I've just been introduced. My name is Ishiki, and I do thank you very much for this opportunity to speak before you today. Thank you for attending. As was explained earlier, the fact that someone as famous as Mr. Ishihara is in the audience fills me with great tension. I'm very, very nervous. I think the last time that I spoke in front of so many people was at my wedding.
それ以来の緊張をしておりますが、精一杯やらせていただきます。
So I'm very, very nervous, but I will try to do my best.
当初、過去のここに招待されたリスト方々のリストを見たとき、一瞬躊躇しましたが、私の基本姿勢は聞かれたことに正直に答えるということで、抜け抜けと参上いたしました。
When I was first shown a list of previous guest speakers at your club, my first reaction was, I can't possibly come. I was quite hesitant. However, my fundamental philosophy in life is that if I'm asked a direct question, I will answer as honestly as I can. Therefore, I took the decision to come before you today.
おそらく皆様は私のことをあまりご存じないと思いますので、最初に自分自身のことを話します。
I'm sure many of you don't really know very much about me, so I'm going to take the opportunity to explain a little bit about myself.
私は1967年、京都市で生まれました。
I was born in 1967 in Kyoto.
15歳の時に船乗りを志し、そのための学校に入るために親元を離れました。
When I was 15 years old, I decided I wanted to sail on ships, and as a result, I left my parents' home and entered a school to study about sailing.
そこは全部で5年半で、最初の4年半、机の上の勉強、最後の1年で、帆船を含む練習船に乗りまして、1年間、国内外、いろんなところを回りました。
So for 5.5 years, I studied at the school. I studied all about navigation, ships, etc. For the first 4.5 years, basically my study was in the classroom. But the very last year, I spent time on a training ship, in many different kinds of training ships, including sailing ships. I traveled both around Japan and throughout the world.
学校を卒業しましても、外国航路の商船に乗りまして、約5年間、世界各国を回りました。
After graduation, I continued to work in the shipping industry. I was on various commercial ships, traveled throughout the world for about 5 years.
それで、船を降り、サラリーマン等を経て、約30歳で海上保安庁に入りました。
After that, I did leave the deck of ships for a while. I spent some time as a salaried man, a businessman. When I turned 30, I entered the Japan Coast Guard.
私が行ってきました海上保安庁での仕事は一貫して船に乗り警備救難業務というものに従事しておりました。
My basic work when I was a member of the Japan Coast Guard was to be on ships and basically to be involved in patrol and rescue operations.
仕事の内容をあまり詳しく言うとまた国家公務員法違反に問われそうなので、そこは伏せておきます。
In regard to a detailed explanation about my work in the Japan Coast Guard, I do not want to be accused of perhaps infringing upon or violating the civil service law in Japan, so I'm not going to go into detail.
皆様、ここからはご存知だと思いますが、昨年の12月に退職し、現在に至っております。
In regard to the end of my career, I'm sure you're probably familiar with the details. In December of last year, I resigned from the Coast Guard, and that has been my status ever since.
皆様の中にも、海上保安庁と海上自衛隊を混同されている方がいらっしゃると思うので、先ほども海上自衛隊の方ですかということに聞かれて、違いますと答えましたので、別に隠していたわけではございません。
Some people, I think, there is some confusion in some people's minds about the exact role of the Japan Coast Guard. Some people confuse it with the Maritime Self-Defense Forces. In fact, a few moments ago, someone came up to me and asked if I was a member of the Self-Defense Forces, and I said no. I'm not trying to hide anything. They are just separate organizations.
海上保安庁というのは、日本というのは国土は狭いのですが、領海、EEZ 排他的経済水域、これを含めますと、かなりの広さの海を、これを守っているのが海上保安庁です。
The Japan Coast Guard is basically looking after the territorial waters of Japan. Japan, of course, has a very, very small landmass, but when you include the EEZ, the territorial waters, it is a very, very large area, and we are responsible for patrolling it.
当然、国境警備隊と、そういう性格の仕事も兼ねております。
Of course, when I say we patrol these waters, it means that part of our work involves functioning as a national border guard.
現在、日本ではいくつかの領土問題を抱えております。
As you know, Japan at present is involved in several territorial disputes with other nations.
最近はですね、それに加えて、尖閣諸島にもそういう問題を作ろうと、そういう動きが出てきております。
In addition to these existing territorial issues, recently there have been movements in the world where territorial issues are now being raised around the area of Senkaku, where previously there were no such issues.
それは、その国は、南シナ海で行ったような方法で、日本に侵略を開始したとも受け取れるような行動をしております。
A certain nation has begun to take actions within near the Senkaku Island region, similar to actions it has taken previously in the South China Seas. In other words, by using similar methodology, similar methods, similar ways, some people can say that this country has begun to start almost an invasion process in regard to Japan's territories.
その一環が、昨年9月に起こって、私が11月に流したビデオを見ていただけると少しは分かると思います。
Of course, I'm speaking in rather vague terms, but this movement was very much the center of what happened in September of last year. It led to my releasing the video in November of last year. And for those of you who have seen this video, I think you will understand what I'm saying.
おおよそ私の考えうる限りで、漁船がああいう感じで衝突するということは、考えられないことでありました。
To give you my impression of what happened, the idea of a fishing boat ramming or colliding with a patrol boat in that way is something that is, in my mind, inconceivable. It was inconceivable that something like that could happen.
これからは私の個人的な考えを述べさせていただきます。
I would now like to speak about my own personal views in regard to this matter.
今20世紀というこの時代を迎えて、いわゆる国際紛争を武力でこういう動きが私としては感じられております。
We are, of course, now in a new century, the 21st century. However, I am beginning to see that in regard to international conflicts, there are some parties in the world that are trying to use force to resolve international conflicts.
本当にですね、尖閣諸島が自国の領土であると思うのであれば、証拠等に基づいて、言論で争うべきであると私は考えております。
My deep-seated belief is that if a certain party or a certain nation believes that they do have justifiable legal territorial claims to a certain region, then they should fight this out not using force but through words. In other words, producing evidence and explaining why they believe they have these rights.
世界は過去の反省から、国際司法裁判所とか、いろいろな武力によらない紛争の解決手段を考え出しました。
As you know, the world has experienced great tragedies in the past, and as a result, the world has put together many different ways to resolve international conflicts without resorting to force. For example, there is the International Court of Justice.
それは過去において、十分にそういう武力で解決しようと、その結果、虚しいものであるということを我々人類が学んだからだと思います。
And I repeat, humanity has learned through bitter experience that resolving conflicts through force never brings good results.
私を含む多くの日本人は 国際紛争、これを平和的な方法で解決したいと思っております。
As a result, I believe the majority of Japanese people, including myself, believe that international conflict should be resolved not through the use of force.
しかしその反面、最近、諸外国の日本周辺の動きを見ていると、力には力で対抗するという考えを持つ人が増えてきたように感じております。
Having said this, however, when we consider some of the movements and some of the activities that are occurring around Japan, a growing number of people, even in our country, have begun to change their views and begun to think that if another party responds with might, then the only way to react to that is also with might or with force.
現在の日本は話し合いで、相手が話し合いで来れば話し合いで答えるでしょう。
I believe that the general feeling in Japan is that if the other party approaches us and says we want to have a dialogue, we want to negotiate, we want to talk things out, then the Japanese side will say yes.
反対に力で来れば力で押し返そうと来るかもしれません。
However, I believe that if the other party tries to push upon us with might, with force, then there is a growing feeling within Japan that we will want to push back.
私は個人的にそういう解決方法を望みませんが、これはもう相手次第であると思います。
I personally would not hope to see that kind of situation come to be realized. I don't want force to occur in the world. However, I think that is the way things are beginning to go.
攻められれば守ると、ただ単純な理屈です。
In other words, to put it very, very simply, if another party approaches us and threatens us, it is only natural that we would want to rise up to try to defend ourselves.
そこで皆様方にお願いがあります。
That brings me to a request that I have to make of you.
もし、日本と他国の間に争いが起こったとき、
If some kind of a conflict or some kind of a quarrel occurs between Japan and another nation,
片方の言い分だけではなく、日本の言い分、これもぜひ聞いていただきたい。
I would like to ask the representatives of the media here that you do not only listen to and report on the justifications or the explanations of the other nation, but you also listen and ask what the Japanese people think and what the Japanese side has as its reasons.
なぜかと言いますと、もう皆さんも日本に長い方はご存知だと思いますが、
Of course, many of you have been in Japan for many, many years, so I think you can guess the reason for my making such a request.
日本には自らのことを多く語らないということを美徳にする文化があります。
Japan culturally has this tradition of thinking that people who do not speak out too openly, who are not aggressive or who are not too assertive, that is considered a very beautiful part of the Japanese character.
それにより過去にいろんな失敗をしたケースがあります。
Unfortunately, however, this is sometimes misconstrued or misunderstood in the international arena, and as a result, Japan's modesty or being hesitant about speaking up and claiming its rights, etc., has led to unfortunate interpretations of Japan in the past.
現在、日本において皆様のような海外のメディア、これの注目度が最近高まっております。
I also believe that you, members of the foreign media, have gained an increasing presence in Japan. In other words, many Japanese focus more on the foreign media than ever before.
自国のニュースでも海外のメディアを通じて情報を得ようとしている人が最近多くなってきております。
In other words, I believe that many Japanese people look to the foreign media to learn about its own country in order to learn about Japan.
それは信頼度の問題です。
It has to do with how much the Japanese trust various media.
具体的な例を申しますと、
If I were to give a specific example,
昨年度日本各地で起こったデモ、これに対する報道姿勢なんかを見ておりますと、
For example, last year there were many demonstrations throughout Japan. When we see the different approaches or the different stances taken by various media as to how to report on these demonstrations,
我々国民は、数ある選択肢の中から、誰が本当の情報を流して誰が流さないのか、ということに気づき始めております。
I think many of us in Japan began to realize that there were many, many different options available to us in terms of the kind of media that we could access. And many of us began to realize that depending on the media, there were very, very clear policies that each media had as to whether to report on something like that or not.
それを見極めて、正しい情報のみを取捨選択すると、こういうことに多くの人が気がつき始めております。
In other words, people are now beginning to realize that they have a choice as to which media they might want to follow. In other words, that there is a difference between media. Some media presents the entire truth, all the facts, and some media do not necessarily do so.
これは考えようによっては、皆様方、海外メディアの方、大きなビジネスチャンスかもしれません。
Of course, this is perhaps a comment into your own businesses, but the fact that things are changing in Japan might mean that for you, members of the foreign media, this represents a business opportunity.
いずれにしろ、我々国民が求めているのは真実の報道です。
There was a long explanation to say that fundamentally, we in Japan are all looking to try to find media that will give us true and correct and accurate information.
あの事件に関しましても、なぜビデオが秘密になったのか。
In regard to the incident in question, there was a question that many Japanese people have, which is why was that video considered to be confidential or secret?
なぜあのビデオが誰の手によって、公開されなかったのか。
Why was that video considered to be determined to be something that could not be made available to the public? Who made that decision?
そういうことを皆が知りたがっております。
I think everyone in Japan has these questions in their minds.
もしメディアが、それを明らかにすることができれば、これは日本国民からおそらく絶大な信頼を得ると思います。
I believe that if there is a media that makes all of these matters clear and is very open with the information, I think that media will earn a tremendous amount of trust from the Japanese public.
漁船の船長のインタビューでも取れば、これはかなりの注目を集めると思います。
I think if there is a media that is able to get an interview with the captain of the Chinese fishing boat, I think the Japanese people would follow that with avid interest.
最後になりますが、皆様に、もう一つだけお願いをしておきます。
So to conclude, I would like to make one more request of you members of the foreign media.
春になって、尖閣諸島で、起きる出来事を
In regard to events that will now begin to occur now that we are entering the spring season, in regard to events that will occur around the Senkaku Islands,
第三者の前で、第三者の目で、公平、客観的な事実をぜひ全世界に向けて報道していただきたいと思います。
I would like to ask that you follow these events and look at these events with an objective, distant, third-party eye and report only on the facts and report these facts to the entire world. That is my request to you.
以上です。ありがとうございます。
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ishiki. It was a very brief speech, which leaves us enough time for questions. I would like you to introduce yourself and only ask one short question, because I think today we will have many journalists asking questions. Okay, I'm opening the floor. Yeah, first, Beryl.
Konnichiwa, Beryl Tong from Taiwan One Daily. I have one question, but one very short. Two questions, one very short. What is Sengoku 38? Right. I think his ID on YouTube. And then the question is that you just mentioned that you are looking for to see that foreign media or Japanese media have more true and correct coverage on this issue. I want to know that what strikes you that, or in the past few months, what's not true and what's not correct in Japanese media or foreign media that from your observation? Thank you.
まず、このタイトルに38に関しましては、これはもう一貫して秘密にしております。ちなみに捜査当局、家族、弁護士、これにも言っておりませんし、今後発表する予定もありません。一つぐらい秘密が残った方がですね、事件が忘れられない、いいかなと、そういう気持ちなんで、あまり気にしないでくださいと言えば余計気になるんでしょうけど、それが狙いなので、それともう一つがですね、メディアに対する不満というか、私もこういう事件が起きるまでは、メディアというのは常に正しい報道をしていると思っていたんですが、いろいろ推測や憶測でいろんなことを書いたり発言したりありましたが、もう最初の頃はいろいろ反論も考えてたんですが、そのうち面倒くさくなりまして、具体的に何があったかということはもうこの本を読んでいただいたら分かるようになっておりますので、以上です。
In regard to your first question about my username Sengoku38, I have taken a very consistent attitude about this. I will not reveal why I chose this name. I have taken this attitude even with the investigative authorities, with my family, with my lawyers. I have no plans at all to reveal why I chose this name. I believe that for this incident, it might be good to have at least one thing that remains mysterious, because that's a way to keep you kind of interested and make you not forget this incident. And if I tell you, don't worry about it, don't think about it too much, that will probably make you think about it a lot, which is actually what I'm trying to do, because I want you to keep remembering it. In regard to what problems I have with the media, until this incident occurred, I had always thought that the media was very factual and was very objective and was reporting the truth honestly. However, after this incident occurred, I see many, many things written about me, said about me, broadcast about me that are really untrue and incorrect. And at first, as a regular human being, I wanted to respond to these mistakes or these errors and these presumptions. But after a while, they just got too tiring. And so my response is that if you want to know specifically what I'm unhappy about, please read my book.
Okay, yes.
フリーライターの徳本と申します。本日は本当にありがとうございます。石木さんの声に対して自民党の谷垣総裁がコメントをしてまして、これは産経新聞の引用ですけれども、映像流出を擁護する人がいるが国家の機密を守れないのは間違っていると。で、226事件でも将校の若い純粋な気持ちを大事にしないという声があり、最後は彼らをコントロールできなくなったというふうには、1936年のクーデターと対比するようなコメントをしてますが、これについてどうお考えですか。で、それについて一般論として日本の公務員、外務省、自衛隊も含めてですけど、もし政府が反日的もしくは売国的な政策をやっていると判断した場合は、その命令に反しても行動を起こすべきだというふうにお考えでしょうか。
I'm a freelancer. My name is Tokumoto. In regard to the release of your video, Mr. Tanigaki, the head of the LDP, has made the following statement, and he's quoting from the Sankei newspaper. Basically, what Mr. Tanigaki said is that although there were some voices raised saying that Mr. Ishiki should be praised or protected for his actions, on the other hand, I believe that the going against the orders of the government on the part of a civil servant is something that cannot be condoned. He refers actually to an incident that occurred in 1936 when young military idealists basically took matters into their own hands, and eventually this led to militarism. In other words, he was basically they tried to do a coup d'etat, and Mr. Tanigaki was basically comparing what Mr. Ishiki did to this 1936 attempted coup d'etat. What do you think about his comments? And the second question is related to this, which is that if a person who works for the government sees that something is being done by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the government or the self-defense forces that they believe is very anti-Japanese or goes against the interests of the nation, do you think that that person should disobey the government?
一つ提案なんですが、質問が長いとちょっと皆さんも私も忘れてしまいそうになるので、一つずつしていただければありがたいんですが。
I just have one request, which is that if the question is very long, everyone, including myself, forgets the question, so it would be nice if you could break them up.
まるで国会審議のような感じでした。
It feels sort of like listening to a diet deliberation.
まず一つ目の質問ですが、一つ目の質問ですが、秘密というのは皆様が、あれを見て秘密と感じられるかどうか、逆に、私の方から質問したいぐらいです。
In regard to that first question, as to whether